Bandwidth for First Updates Now is supported by the Blue Alliance. Keep up to date on all live and archived First Robotics events and team stats at thebluealliance.com. First Updates Now is brought to you by viewers like you. Fun relies on the generous support of our fans in order to continue to keep creating content. Please consider donating, giving bits, or subscribing. Subscribe for a few bucks a month or for free through Twitch Prime. And don't forget that our subscribers get 5x chance to win on all giveaways.
Welcome to FUNalysis post-championship event. We had so much exciting things going on all year long. Tonight on FUNalysis, it's time to break down and analyze match strategy and tactics from both the Houston and Detroit championships. We've got a great couple of people joining us. I'm Mason Marquis. Joining me as well is fantastic analysis, Karthik Kanagasabi. Karthik, say hello.
Hey, buddy. How's it going, everyone?
And also joining me is Garrison Hefter. Hey, Garrison.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
And playing behind the scenes, we got Mr. Tyler Olds.
All right, everyone. Don't forget. Make sure if you want to, chat with us, see what's going on, tag at First Updates Now in the chat with any questions or comments that you would like us to discuss during the show. Competition season's done, so we might even have some more time to field questions and comments. So, just have at us.
Yeah, and along the way, whether you're watching live or watching this on YouTube or Twitch archived, we need your help to keep fun going. You can always subscribe to First Updates Now on Twitch and give us bits or make a donation. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description to how you can help fund directly that way. Thank you to everyone that has stepped up and shown support to us for shows like FUNalysis and all of our recap shows that we did this year. And we will announce all subscribers and donors that we have during this show at the end of this coming show. So go ahead and stick around for that. And make sure to let everyone in your team or network know about our shows so that we continue to grow our community and gain more viewers.
All right. So I don't want to spend any more time talking. I'm so ready to get into the action. Both championships event were just stacked with amazing teams, and it was all going by so fast that we could barely take a second to understand what was going on. Giant powerhouse teams getting knocked out in different divisions. Let's go to our first match breakdown of the evening. Karthik is going to start out with the Houston Championship, where we saw the Newton Finals.
Thanks, Mason. And so, this match, this was an all-star division final. This match was worthy of a Einstein final, a Festival of Champions. It was super packed. So the Red Alliance consisted of the number one seed in the Newton division team, 33-10. They were well out of the top 8 after the first day, but they just kept picking up 4 ranking point match after 4 ranking point match on Friday, jumped up to the number one seed. There they snagged Team 118, arguably one of the top teams in the world this year, right up there with Team 254. And then in the second round, they grabbed Team 6377, who I'm going to talk about a lot. On the Blue Alliance, again, another all-star alliance, Team 1678, who ended up winning this division, making their 6th consecutive appearance on Einstein, and Team 1619, one of the new powerhouses in first, who paired up with 148 of Colorado, played a really tough matches against 118, so they were having a rematch against them right here. And then 4061, who was a solid contributing third robot. But all the focus in this match is you have 3310 world finalists last year, 118 world finalists last year, 1678, just this all-star match. But I really think this match kind of swung around the defense played by 6377. Honestly, and no hyperbole here, this is one of the best defensive performances I've seen in a long time, maybe going back to at least 2014. Now, part of that is, it's been harder to play defense since then, but this was crazy. And also, this was their first match they played in the elimination rounds. The prior 6 matches, the 3310 118 Alliance went with their other robot, who was a bit more offensive, had a buddy climb that they could use. But they lost the first match of the final, so they brought in 6377 for the defensive hard stop. And their whole plan was they wanted to save 6377 for Einstein, but they realized they had to pull them out because you can't get to Einstein unless you can win your division. So I think it's time, we've laid the preamble here to just jump into this match. And so, again, for the most part, let's just pause right here for one sec as we get going. We're going to focus on the defense from 63-77, but watch very carefully at the start of this match because there's a tech foul called on red, and Mason and Garrison, I'd love your input here because I still don't know what the tech foul was for. But it happened during autonomous. Let's watch autonomous.
I mean, it's got to be launching, right? It's always launching.
It has to be launching, but where is it? Does 118 launch there? Because
No,
63-77 is clearly hitting the switch.
Yeah.
And we saw the referee in the top left corner signal the tech foul right there. And so let's go back and, if we want to circle that referee in the top left corner, and let's watch it play out here. So it looks like he's pointing at 63-77.
Yeah, it's got to be launching, right? Like, I mean, that's what the ref thought it was. From our angle, it definitely doesn't look like launching.
And again, our angle's limited here. It's hard to say what's going on, but it seemed like 63-77 slammed their bumpers into the switch. So, anyways, I wanted to bring that up. Let's just kind of file that away, and we'll talk about it after the end of the match. We'll see if it actually mattered here. So let's just start this match, and all I want to say is for the early part of this match, just enjoy how good these teams are and how fast they move at the scale and how coordinated they are. This is crazy. The speed of what's going on. Then we see right away 16-19. Let's pause right here for a second. Starts making a play at the switch. And this is something that I thought 16-19 and 16-78 did a great job of, is that they took an early lead on the scale in autonomous, and just by a couple cubes, but they decided instead of consolidating that lead, which is also a good strategic play, to make a move right away on the red switch. And that was a very smart strategy to try and steal a couple extra points. And it doesn't work out fully for them because of what we're going to see the defense played by 63-77, but let's just keep going there and just kind of remember that. And so they drop another cube on there, and their placement is not exactly where it needs to be. And now let's pause right here at the 112-second mark. And here it comes. 63-77, the howdy bots. I call them howdy doody. Or they're saying howdy doody is 16-19, and they say howdy doody to them for the next minute because they just massacre them for the next minute. And so 16-19, honestly, in my opinion, was one of the best offensive robots in first this year. But watch what happens to them. Let's just watch this play out. So 63-77, so they're doing some pushing defense. 16-19 goes all the way around to the other side. But by the time they get to the other side, they go to the portal. Here comes 63-77, playing positional defense on them now, trying to get in the way. They're sticking with them. And now they're pushing them. Let's pause for 1 second here. Mason Garrison, what do you think the weight difference is between these two robots?
I mean, howdy bots don't look like they've got anything on their robot. I mean, just an intake, right? So that robot weighs 80 pounds tops. You just can't cram much more metal than that. And 16-19, they have everything. Buddy climb, full scalar, elevator, intake. I mean, they got to be right at 120 pounds or 150 with bumpers and battery, right?
Yeah, and 63-77 is dummying them around the field. Now, we don't know if 63-77 added some ballast to themselves. I'm not sure what the wheel configuration was on 16-19, but I've seen them be pushed both in the lateral and the aft direction. So it's holy cow. So let's just keep watching this. And they just keep on them and keep on them. And so as this is happening, 118 and 3310 have a 2-on-1 advantage working the scale. So let's pause again here for a second. Think about this. 118 and 3310 are, again, two of the most high-powered robots in all of FRC. They don't even usually need a 2-on-1 advantage. But when you give them a 2-on-1 advantage, even when they're working on a team as good as 1678, this allows them to slowly claw away at the lead that 1678 had up on the scale. Normally, if you got a 40, 50-point match lead this early in the match, it's hard to come back. But these guys can just keep working, and that's predicated on the defense being played by Howdy Doody over here. So let's just keep going. And watch 63-77 now playing positional defense. They just keep getting in the way. 16-19 able to drop one on the switch there. And it's amazing that 16-19 was able to get any cubes put on the switch here because like their drivers are just phenomenal that they're rolling off this defense. But like the defense is just nonstop. It's almost been a minute here. And 63-77's held them to 2 cubes on the switch, 2 ineffective cubes. And let's pause right now. While this has all happened, Red has taken the scale back. and the scale which they were badly losing on, it almost seemed like a abandoned point. They've taken it back. Still, they're down by 62 points, and there's 50 seconds left. Like, going back to the first show Mason and I did this year, we kind of talked about once you're down by more points than there are seconds left in the match, it's almost over. But the comeback is on. It was predicated by this defense. And now, one of the things we need to think about is, why was 63-77 able to play so much defense on 16-19? Well, the switches were inherently more defendable this year than the scale because there was no protected zone around the switches while there was around the scale. And we'll see what happens here when 16-19 peels off to go back at the scale because they're now losing it. So let's resume this match. And 16-19 goes back to scale, and Howdy leaves them alone because they don't want to take any penalties. And so they're going to start vaulting here. So now it's time. Red now has control of their switch. Red has control of the scale. Blue's trying to come back on the scale, but points are accumulating twice as fast as they are for red and they are for blue. And this match is now super, super close. And it's all going to come down to the end. And this is going to be one of the most heartbreaking endings you will see. Maybe the most heartbreaking ending since Archimedes 2012. As we see here, 33-10 goes to line up. They clip on. And let's pause right here for 1 second. There's 14 seconds left in the match. It looks like 33-10 and 118 are up by 40 points. 33-10 goes up for a lift. But it's like, wait a second, they're not going to drop their forks? And it's like, this is one of the things where I've seen people say, oh, well, they should have made this decision based on, but like, we all know that the real-time scoring is inherently like not trustworthy when it comes to epsilons of this size. So what 33-10 does next, a lot of people are like, why did they come down? They would have won the match if they had just climbed. I don't fault them for it. So let's just watch again.
Yeah, and I
up,
think like
they come down. Let's pause it so Mason can give his rationale.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much time on the clock, and a good robot like that, I think because they had to make that substitution, they brought in the Howdy bots, which wasn't the original part they had played through the whole tournament with. They were a little bit out of sync. They weren't in the right position to go early, so the driver probably said, he's not here, I'm just going to go up. And then coaches probably reminded him that there's plenty of time on the clock to get back up there and lift that robot. But I still think this is amazing because so many robots have ratcheting systems or whatever, so it's a one-way climb. They can never come back down after they go up. And 33-10 proved why it's advantage not to have that.
Absolutely. Their design really paid off for them here. And so let's take a look and see what happens next. And Howdy gets on their forks. And they get on the forks and they go up. And can you pause it, Tyler? Right there. 3 seconds left. It's over. They're up. And then the unthinkable happens as we let it go. 1 second, they just fall off. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what happened either. I mean, I remember watching this live, and I remember being so excited about it because they forgot to lift them, so they came back down. They put down the forks. They let the robot drive on. The robot was a little crooked. He backed off. He drove back on. So many right moves in a row, and then, I mean, time is frozen. That robot is not moving, and then it just falls, out of nowhere. I mean, if they just would have climbed like 2 feet higher, they would have been airborne at the buzzer.
And Tyler, can you rewind just to maybe about like the 10-second mark? And pause it right here. I want everyone, if you look at the top left corner, you can see a bunch of inspectors and CSAs. If we can circle up there right underneath where it says final number 2, and just watch their reaction, because like their reaction kind of says it all up there. And as it goes on, they see the lift happening. They all start celebrating. They're like super pumped to see this happen. They're jumping up and down. And then,
yeah,
it's just heartbreaking because I honestly thought the 33-10 118 alliance was the second best alliance at the at the Houston champs, and maybe like in the world this year. And like I mean, full credit to 1678 and 1619, and because I mean 1678 just wins. They just go to Einstein, and they are so good, and like they played that match perfectly. But like this was just, the agony of defeat, the ecstasy of victory. Like holy, and like let's go over to the Blue Alliance and take a look at the score down here. As we pulled that up, and the final score, like this match was decided by 2 points. So like if the Howdy bots had just fallen and landed on the platform, they win and they go to a third match. If they just had 2 extra seconds of switch ownership during the autonomous period that gives them the match. 3 extra seconds of scale ownership during teleop that gives them the match. And that penalty that we still don't know like what happened there, that anything can flip this match. It was just crazy. That's as close. I mean, it's not as close as you can get. Garrison has a match, which is technically as close as you can get coming up next. But, I mean, this was just a legendary match that'll go down in first history with the great robots in there, the great defense that was played, the exciting ending. And
I mean, but to me, what's so impressive watching that match, again, a little bit in slow-mo, is how 1678 is able to maintain the scale for so long, despite their partners up a creek 1619 being, incapacitated. They're unable to generate any kind of offensive power. So it's 1 versus 2, and those 2 are 3310 and 118, and they do get it back 118 and 3310, but it takes them a very long time. 1678 is playing their best performance ever to keep that scale in their possession as long as they did, and that's what it took, right?
It was just greatness on all sides, like the great defense, the great offense. I mean, the fact that 1619 occupied 6377 for so long and was able to get those couple cubes there on the switch, which I believe stole ownership for like a second, which was like difference making. It was crazy. Since we have a couple more minutes, I do want to talk a little bit about alliance selection on this field. And Mason, I'm sure you'll be able to chime in since you were there for this one. Mm-hmm. Because there were some questions about this. So I'm just going to break it down. If we can pull up the alliance selection screen from the Blue Alliance. And you see that, so 3310 was the number 1 seed. And going into this, Mason, where was 118 ranked? They were ranked 7th, I believe?
Yeah.
They were ranked 4th. They were ranked 4th. Okay. So if 3310, and 1678 was second. If 3310 had picked 1678, then 3853 would have moved up to the number 2 spot, and they would have picked one of 118 or 1619. And if 118 had accepted, it would have basically meant that 118 and 1619 weren't going to be together, which could have meant that 3310 and 1678 could have cruised towards Einstein, because there were 4 super great robots in this division. And if 2 of them were together and 2 of them weren't, the 2 together have a big advantage. But instead, 3310 went with 118. And this is a dilemma that lots of teams who've been in the number 1 seed have gone through before. I know I've gone through it with 1114, Mason. I'm sure you've gone through it with 118. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those hard things, because 3310, in 3310's opinion, 118 was the best team in the division. However, they thought that 1678 was almost as good as 118, but gave them the best shot at getting to Einstein. But they picked 118 instead, and their logic was they thought that 118 gave them the best shot of beating 254 and 148, which was their ultimate goal. So, I mean, what do you think of that decision, Mason?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at, or what they were looking at is the amount of cubes that you can put on top of a stack. We know that 3310 and 118 were spent the weekend before championships practicing together, so they had some autonomous modes that they had kind of sorted out. And what really, I think, put 118 up on the top of 3310's list is their ability to hold the cube on top and bottom and nestle them in right next to other ones. When you look at that capability and you look at trying to play the cheesy poofs in 148, the Robo Wranglers, who was looking at being the hopper winners or the threat, you needed that kind of capabilities. And they had their eyes on the big prize, which is winning that world championship trophy.
You know, and I Mason's going to talk about 254 and 148 later on, but like, it's crazy that their alliance was affecting alliance selection in other divisions. That's how dominant 254 was this year. And then the combination with 148, like, teams were making alliance selection decisions that they might not have made normally because of the power that was coming out of one division. And like, that's what we call true dominance in the sport. So it was, Newton was an amazing division to watch. It was just like constant action. I was watching Houston from home, and Newton always had a place on my screen because there was just always match after match of these great teams, and there was like this huge battle for the number 1 spot. And it was like 1678 got 20 bonus ranking points out of 20 bonus ranking points. They only went 7-3, but they still seeded number 2 because they got those 20 extra ranking points, which is just a testament to 1678's program of working with their partners and making sure everything's compatible. And it was a very cool division. And congratulations to 1678 and 1619 and 4061 for getting out of that division, and congratulations to 3310, 118, and 6377, and for just putting on a show. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, as a spectator, it was tons of fun, and it's just 6 times on Einstein. It's pretty unreal that
six times in a row, and I believe 5 times from the number 1 alliance, and once from the number 2 alliance now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was absolutely dominant performance from them, and what a great match. The ending was insane. But I watching this match, I hurt obviously for the Howdy Bots. I'm good friends with them. I'm from Dripping Springs, Texas, real small town that these guys are from. So it was real cool to see them get as far as they did, and then obviously good friends with 3310 and all them. But I had so much fun watching this match and all these other ones. I'm just glad we got to cover them.
So we do have one question from the chat from Kevin Sheridan. I wonder if that's the real Kevin.
That the student coach? So that question is, should Citrus Circuits and Upper Creek Robotics 1678 and 1619 attack the switch at this moment in the match? I didn't catch which moment it was, but I'll lay it up there for Karthik and Garrison. Do you think there was a point in the match where they should have been playing more on the switches?
I think they probably could have. The switches, they didn't have a whole lot on them. But as soon as you start focusing that switch, you're so much easier defended. Y'all talked about that during the match, that the switches are so much easier defended, and the Howdy Bots, I mean, they had a great defensive performance. So yes, I think in hindsight it looks easy enough for them to go play on the switch, but it would have been so much easier for Howdy Bots to just come in and cause havoc.
So I think that defense that Howdy Bots is playing is critical to this, and I'm going to talk about this a lot in the match I cover with the championship winner strategy, which I think the way Howdy Bots were playing in that match was key to victory. I think that was the right strategy to be playing. And what that meant was that you had no opportunity to go attack the switches. You were so tied up playing on the scale game, and with one of your good robots being neutralized, you couldn't do anything else in that match. So you couldn't even think to break out and go attack a switch.
Yeah, I mean, it shows how impactful defense could be in this game, and I don't think it ever really was as impactful as, I mean, at least in most matches, it was never as impactful as it was in this match, which is a shame because I thought this was the most interesting defensive game Versus come out with since 2014. And I love defense. I mean, that's sort of my bread and butter, and what I was, the games that I was raised playing was around 2012 through 2014. So yeah, defense was about what we did.
Where defense wins championships, right?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely didn't win any championships, but we won some stuff with some defense, which was.
All right, Garrison. Well, let's head over to the Detroit Championship, and you're going to be covering the Darwin division. So let's go right into that match if you're ready for it, Garrison.
Yeah, sure. So before we actually get into the matchup, let's go ahead and talk about a little bit about which match I'm doing. That's semifinal 2, match number 1. We have the 2 seed versus the 6 seed. And that is, the 2 seed is 2451 Ponage, 2481 the Robotiers, and 5406 Celtex. Huge powerhouse alliance in red. And then the blue alliance, also very strong, is 865 Warp 7, and then 494 Goodrich Martians, as well as 4917 Sir Lancerbot. And I mean, great team. So over here for red first, Celtex was the captain. They lost in the finals of the Ontario Provisional Champs, and they, after beating 1114 and 1241 in the division finals. So, I mean, very strong team, even maybe not a household name that you've heard of a lot, but one of the great teams of Canada this year. And they were partners in that event with Team 4917 Sir Lancerbot, who's on the other side of the field for this match. Now, the Roboteers were Celtec's first pick. They had 4 blue banners coming into champs, winning every regional they attended. But they struggled a little bit in this division, seeding 33rd. And then Ponage, 2451, they won the St. Louis regional aside the Roboteers, and they rounded out that alliance as the 3rd pick. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit because I can't really cover a match in the Darwin division without explaining sort of the end of Friday and then the start of Saturday, because the last qualification match on Friday was a little bit troublesome. Basically, I had Team 56, who was the number 1 seed going into the match, and the rankings were really, really close. Celtex 5406 was at number 2. And Team 56 needed at least 3 ranking points to secure that number 1 spot. Otherwise, Celtex was going to have that take over the spot. Now, the match ended, and it appeared that 56 lost by a point. And they had 2 other ranking points, but it dropped them down to the number 2 seed. Celtex goes up to the number 1, and then everybody goes home. That's the end of the day. It's the last qualification match. And nobody noticed that score was incorrect. Later that night, there was a Chief Delphi post pointing out that if you added up all the component scores of that match, it would have been a tie, not a 1-point victory. And so on Saturday morning, they changed the outcome of that match, which changed the rankings. It changed the number 1 and 2 spot and flipped them, which changed alliance selection. 56, who officially seeded first now, did not select the second ranked team. They went down and selected Team 4028, the Beak Squad, over Celtex, and then Celtex went on to choose the Roboteers. Now, you kind of have to know all that background, and that little 1-point difference is got to come back to haunt Celtex here in just a minute for the second time. But so as we get into auto, now you're going to bear with me because I'm going to be driving this a little bit separate than Tyler. So is auto... Okay, auto starting. So it's a switch side setup, and we have 5406 running their 3 cube. Now they drop the first one and get called for launching. That is huge issue. And it also allows Sir Lancerbot 4917 for blue to catch up and even the scale. Now, if you pause at the end of auto, and let's look at kind of where everything is. So 24 also in auto, one thing that I didn't point out was Ponage actually gets this red switch first earlier than the Martians do. Actually, that was the Roboteers sliding across the field to get it first. Ponage get their second cube on there. But that slight time advantage actually makes up for the difference where blue held the scale. So it's pretty even in autonomous, except for that launching penalty. And so now we look at the end of auto before we get started and look at all of the robot positions. Ponage already has a second cube in their possession for red. Then so does the Martians, and they are ready to score it, but they have not done that yet. And then everything is sort of mirrored here, except for 865 in the middle of the field for blue has possession of their cube. They did not score anything in auto, and they just got in position to go ahead and score that right away on the scale. They're going to try and take the lead. So in Teleop, let's go ahead and get things started. Okay. Let me catch up here. So as we get here, Roboteers get caught in a pretty rough situation. They're trying to get all those fence cubes, but they get caught between 865 and the Martians, and it takes them a while to pick up their cube. As blue here has enough time to take the lead on the scale. If we pause here for a second, what's that? Sorry. I'm at 102 right now. Okay, so Roboteers are now finally free. All 3 blue robots are on the same side of the field. Roboteers now have a clear path to their scale, finally. It took them about 10 extra seconds, though, which right now, red actually has the lead on the scale, but that's not going to last. As you can see, all 3 blue robots about ready to fix that problem. So let's go ahead and get started once again. More defense being played by 865. Now watch over in the corner here on the top corner, Sir Lancerbot on Ponage. Pause. And let's back up to 116, if you will, Tyler. Back up a little ways, because I want to pay attention to the defense that Sir Lancerbot. Actually, go back even further, back to the start of Teleop, because I want to pay attention to the defense that Sir Lancerbot plays here on Ponage, because it's very good. Both of them are going to go for those red fence cubes over there, but watch Sir Lancerbot as they hit at about 131. Look where they hit Ponage. Notice, Ponage did not get all the way around the fence. Sir Lancerbot knows this, and all they have to do is stop them from pivoting around that corner. If they can do that, Sir Lancerbot has access to all those cubes before Ponage does. And that's exactly what they do. We start running again. Boom, they box them out, get to that first cube first. This delays Ponage significantly as they don't get their another cube until 1 minute 20. So another basically 10 seconds before Ponage can get control of their cube. And they go and drop it off to Celtex. So as we're running here, I'm at 110. As you can see, Robotiers still caught over on the side, top of the field. Finally break free now. They're going to try and get a cube and even up the scale. It is even right now, tilts just back towards red. And the Martians even it out, matched by Celtex and the Robotiers. This is the reason I picked this match. Is it's such a great scale battle, and the stacking is so neat. And at 80 seconds now, we're just about tied up. And stuff is going. So now Ponage getting defended again. And pretty soon they're going to start doing the vault earlier than the Blue Alliance does. See, okay, now they're going for those protected cubes, pinning Sir Lancerbot in the corner as they get it. Okay, so they're going for the vault. They played force. Now, if we pause here, I want to talk a little bit about why that at 57 seconds. I want to talk about why this force is so important. Actually, it's just finishing up. That force keeps red in this match. If red didn't play the force as early as they do, they would have had a really tough time catching up. Because this is while blue has control of the scale. And at 57 seconds, you can see Celtex is just in position to even that scale. This cube that they have up there is going to give them possession back of the scale. And so that was a hugely effective force. And then Sir Lancerbot knocks a cube off the scale as they try to score. I'm moving again. I'm at 47 seconds. Now, red still has this control of the scale. Now, they're actually increasing their lead pretty significantly here as they are holding on to the scale. And now 865 Warp 7 with about 35 seconds left going for their vault finally. They're going to look to try and match a couple of those power-offs. Big drop by 2481 and about 30 seconds left. Let's go ahead and pause. So we're at 30 seconds, and teams are starting to do the end game. Now, you notice Ponage have been waiting on that platform for a couple of seconds. They are content with what they have in the vault, and look at what that is exactly. They got their levitate, guaranteed 30 points. That's important. And then they used that force from earlier, and they have 1 in boost. That's going to be really important in a second. Well, let's look at what blue has, though. They took those first 3 cubes and put them straight into levitate. I don't know if I totally agree with this. It ends up kind of working out for them. But let's keep rolling here for just a second. All right, now 25 seconds left. Blue still has control of the scale here. And now, so 4 robots are climbing, which means we get to pay attention to what these last 2 robots are doing. If we pause here with about 16 seconds left. All right. So we pay attention to 2481 and Warp 7, the 2 robots still left on the field scoring. 2481, the Robotiers, they think that they can get that scale back. Now, that's the only reason they would still be going for the scale. Otherwise, their vault is not full. They still have 3 open spots for cubes in their vault. That's 15 points that they can get. In my opinion, they should be trying to go for the vault. There's the cube that they have in their possession. There's another cube on the other side of the by their opponent's switch, and then they could get one. I think that's more valuable than trying to get the scale. I don't think they can get the points out of scale. Karthik and Mason, I'd be curious to hear from y'all on what y'all think on what they could actually do the last 30 seconds. But I like what Warp 7 does here because they actually go for the vault, those last couple of points. And as the red boost finishes out, they played a boost 1 to get those 10 extra points on their switch. Now, blue plays the boost. They don't get the full 10 seconds out of it. And it's okay. Now, pause at the end of the match. Okay. Yeah. So as time winds down, you can see that last couple of cubes in the vault. But at the end of the match, it's 0. At 0. Look at the live score. 393 to 393. It is exactly even according to the score. Now, this is painful. As if you keep it rolling and you watch the end of the match, okay, watch everybody in the background of this, like freaking out. Okay, they unload the robots, the animation, red wins. And then the score breakdown. Okay, so,
oh, I'm just dumbfounded.
Yeah. So, do some math. I'll give the audience a chance to catch up here. If you do the math, those numbers are not equal. If you add up all the component scores,
you don't even need to add them all up. It's a simple parity argument. Just look at your units digit. One's odd, one's even.
Yeah, the ownership enough. Like, I mean, it's so they figure this out, thankfully, much more quickly than they did with that last qualification match that caused the same problem. But blue did end up winning. They did have one extra point. The actual score was 394 to 393. And I mean, how painful this must have been for Celtics as this happened twice. They thought they were going to be the number 1 seed. Going home on Friday night, they went home and strategized as the number 1 seed. Could pick anybody. I haven't talked to them. I don't know how much it changed changed their decision making and things. And then to have it happen again in their first semifinal match, and they go on. This did go to 3 matches, all 3 of them very close. And blue ended up winning the 6th alliance and taking it all the way to Einstein. But I love that match. I thought it was really well played from both alliances. There weren't a whole lot of mistakes made. So, but I'm curious to hear what the two of y'all have to say about it, as it was just overall a really close, really solid match.
I mean, there was a lot going on in that match, and it's, I mean, it was a virtual tie, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of things that could be said. I would have been interested to see how the number 2 alliance would have done if they had played 5036, who was one of the better switch/defense spots in Power Up this year. I would have liked to see them play over Ponage. I think they may have fallen into the same trap that 1114 and 610 fell into last year, where we unexpectedly got 359 as our 3rd robot, and then we picked the Disco Bots as our 4th robot. And the Disco Bots were probably more complementary to the strategy we wanted to play, but we never played them because it's like, you have 359. Who's going to bench 359? And I think that maybe Celtics and the Robotics were thinking, it's like, well, the switch defense bot at 5036 makes a lot of sense, but it's like, we have Ponage. They're one of the, top 25 teams over the last 5 years. So we obviously are going to play them. And, I wonder if it would have been different, but anything could have been different in this match. Just like 1 second of ownership makes a difference. So it's like, it's hard to nitpick anything because it was like that close.
Yeah. When it gets this close, you can't say that. I don't know, it's just like one mistake or one bump and run a little differently would have, there's just too many factors that could have changed differently. I mean, I love it that it was exciting because it was so even, but, I think there's a fundamental flaw if Alliance can't, pull something out that is a dominating strategy in this game. And so many of the wins are big wins because it's a key strategy they're playing that just prevents the other alliance from generating any kind of income or any kind of points.
I would have liked to see Ponage. And I mean, you mentioned the 4th robot. I thought Ponage could have done a much better job of going for the switches. I mean, you saw neither opponent's switch for either alliance was attacked at all. Both of them were empty at the end of the match. I would have been curious to see how that match would have changed if you had Ponage, go play some more offense.
I want to throw this out there, and maybe you guys talked about this before because I disconnected for a bit, but like, how on earth was 49-17 available in the second round? Like, they were one of the I mean, I saw them up close in Ontario twice. They beat 2056 in the finals at Waterloo. Like, they beat 2056. Like, let's just say that again. They beat 2056. There's like only like a handful of teams who can ever say that. They also took down 11-14 and 12-14. They took down 2056, 11-14, and 12-41 in the same season in Ontario. That's,
within a couple hours.
Well, no, it was different events. It was different events. One was Waterloo, one was provincial championship. So, like, over the span of a couple weeks, but like how they fell that far. And I know they had some consistency issues with their auto, I guess, but it's like that 49-17 robot. If they go to IRI or if they go somewhere, look at it up close. It's a work of art. Everything is so well designed. It has a place. They got that little extendo hang so they can make room, and like them in the second round it's just mind-boggling to me.
I mean, in general, I thought the Detroit Championship event had so many more evenly matched up alliances. The elimination tournament is worth a watch. I mean, I think it's some of the best TV and FRC that's ever been put out there, because so many of the alliances are evenly matched because the middle was so freaking thick at Detroit. So, like, you ask how they fell so far, it's because there were that many other really genuinely good robots in the Darwin division. So that, I mean, teams just had a plethora of options to go with. And it was awesome because it made the matchup so evenly matched, and entertainment value was at an all-time high.
Well, just looking at these two alliances, if you had told me that if we just take the third and fourth robots from both alliances, so we take 49-17, 24-51, 50-36, and 51, and you told me that was an alliance that champs in Detroit, I would have been like, oh yeah, did they make it to Einstein? Because
right.
that sounds like an Einstein alliance to me. 49-17, 24-51, and 50-36. It's like, yeah, that sounds like an Einstein alliance to me. And so, I mean,
to me, it was like, it's like watching NFL games, where there's some that are going to be a blowout, but there's so many that are great matchups and they're evenly matched because the league is designed to make good TV, and that's what we got out of Detroit this year in those elimination tournaments.
Yeah, so it looks like we actually had a comment that 49-17, one of the reasons that they may have fallen so far in the draft was apparently they did not show, or at least they didn't have or didn't show an Auton before the elimination rounds. So definitely, I mean, a reason that teams might have wanted to sort of second guess themselves on picking them.
I still would have taken them.
Yeah.
Just, like, I mean, like, if I'm a team up at the top and I've got a 2-3 cube auto, it's like, I can make you move a line.
Right. Well, in that match, they ran their 2 cube auto. They were the ones that did it. They ran it successfully. So I'm not sure if they actually didn't have it or they hadn't run it, but because I'm not familiar enough with them.
Yeah, I wasn't there. That's weird.
So because I find it really hard to believe that they wouldn't have had an autonomous at all.
It seems odd to go from a no autonomous to a 2 cube auto. That's a lofty jump, and we saw it at regional tournaments and district tournaments where people didn't even run an auto because you don't get any points for getting the auto quest. There's no ranking points in tournament or in the elimination tournament. So, all right. So before we move on, I want to bring on our producer, Tyler, who has a special announcement about a brand spanking new show we're going to be piloting next week that you have to check out. Tyler, could you tell us a little more about it?
Thanks, Mason. Yeah, so next week, starting at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, don't forget we're going to have shows every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have a fun fan appreciation night, and we're starting out something new thanks to feedback from our Discord people, and we're going to be doing a live first trivia night. So that will be, we're going to start using Kahoot, but we're open for other suggestions, but we want to get as many people in. So bring in your teammates, everybody else. They can load it up on their phones or on their desktop. And we're going to hopefully play a really large game of trivia. We do have prizes, by the way, both for the overall winner and for the highest ranked subscriber. We'll both win prizes. So a little bit of a subscriber appreciation night, but also something for all of our fans as well, too. So we need your help, though, in order to make this happen, because we need to generate some trivia questions for this. And not only do you get your trivia question hopefully read out, but I guess you kind of get a freebie if we use yours, right? So I'll put it up on the screen a little bit. But please go to tinyurl.com/fun trivia night to submit your questions for trivia and help support this initiative. Once again, get all your teammates on this. Get them in Kahoot. And if you have suggestions for other programs, we're going to use Kahoot for next week, but I'm open for other ones later. We did apply for Jackbot partnership, but we're still waiting to hear back on that. With that said, guys, we'd love to have your feedback as well. And we're going to be doing that for FRC. We might do an FTC one too later on. And speaking of FTC, we do have FTC Live tomorrow evening. So if you like FTC or you just want to learn more about FTC, tomorrow evening on Wednesday, that is, at 8:30 p.m., interviews and discussions with FTC teams and personalities. But once again, tinyurl.com/fun trivia night. For your, we'd love to have your feedback and your trivia questions in that as well.
Dope. Thanks, Tyler. Sounds exciting. So for our last match of FUNalysis this evening, we're going to be going back to the Houston event. We're going to go to Einstein Round Robin match number 8. This is going to be the Roebling versus Hopper matchup. So Roebling was the alliance led by Team 3476 Code Orange. They picked 1323 Madtown Robotics, and playing in this match with them is 1072 Hawker Robotics. So 3 teams from California going up against the Hopper, eventual winners of the Houston Championship event. That was led by Team 254, the Cheesy Poofs. Their partner, first pick, was 148 Robo Wranglers, Team 2976 from Sammamish, Washington. That's Sparta Bots, was their third robot on the field. Now, Sparta Bots ended up playing incredible defense, and that's really what I want to highlight in this match a lot. So 148, 254, 2 amazing robots. Everyone saw when divisions were going to come out that this was their pick to win a world championship. And I don't blame them, but I've seen plenty of really good matchups go on and lose in their divisional tournaments or on Einstein. And, you know, occasionally the best of the best that you would expect to win do win, but many, many times they don't. And so 148 and 254 made it look easy. They routed everyone they went up against. And I really want to highlight the strategy that they played, because I think they played an extremely effective strategy. It played up their partners so well. But without this, what I think is a really great strategy, I think they could have been beat. I think there were a lot of alliances that were going to beat them. I think that they made mistakes along the way, but their strategy was really impressive. So, you know, we've talked a lot about 254, such a powerhouse team, undefeated season, incredible accolades are deserved by them. You know, I felt a little bit bad about hyping them even more. They've already got the trophy now. Do they need to be hyped more? But I think the rest of the world needs to see what this strategy is. So for all these off-season events coming up, they can maybe incorporate some of these strategies. Now, they know 148, 254, they know the game is about the scale. At the highest level, you have to own the scale. If you don't own the scale, you can't play the switches, and everything else falls apart. Nobody wins if they don't own the scale at the highest level. So they're going to prioritize that to the max. They say power-ups, who needs them? They're going to get their 90 endgame points, but they're not going to play boosts. They're not going to play any of their forces. They are just going to focus the scale. And they know that the game runs out of cubes. So wherever you get your cubes is the most important. So you've got to play that hard. So we're going to go ahead and play through Autonomous. In this matchup, 254 gets a 3-cube cross auto. Very impressive. 148 adds one more on there. So that's 4 cubes on the scale for the Blue Alliance. And then on the Red Alliance, though, they ended up with 3 cubes on the scale, 2 from 1323 Madtown and 1 from 1072 Hawker Robotics. Meanwhile, Code Orange is able to do a 2-cube switch. So great matchup here. Red Alliance not trailing too much out of autonomous mode. So let's go ahead and get this match started. And we're going to pause it right out of autonomous mode to show you guys the initial positions of these different alliances. So it's important, I think, to note that all of the robots end up scoring cubes. So nobody has cubes left in their hands out of autonomous mode. So nobody can make this initial play to score another one. So things are kind of left where they stand out of autonomous mode. Neck and neck matchup. All right. So Red Alliance, they're going to send 3 robots. Red Alliance is going to put all 3 robots onto offense. Blue Alliance, they're only going to send 2 on offense. And Team 2976 Sparta Bots, they're going to play defense right at the start of the match. But they're not going to play defense on a robot. They're going to play defense on the cubes. Their entire goal 2976, they're charged with protecting the 4 cubes that are along the fence by the switch on the blue side of the field. So we're going to watch how that affects the other alliance as we go right into it. So we'll hit start and we'll just play through for the next 20 seconds. And we can watch as 1323 Madtown Robotics comes in and tries to get their first cube off the line, and they're met immediately with defense by Sparta Robotics. That's an intentional move to try to protect those cubes so that 254 can make use of those cubes and get them on there. Now, 1323, great robot, crab drive, very impressive intake, same intake as 254. Let's go and pause it right here at 110. 1323 is able to get those cubes, right? Crab drive, great robot. They should be able to dodge defense, move around the field. They're an impressive scaling robot. But what we see now is that after this line of cubes is gone on the blue switch, Sparta Robotics 2976, their goal is to dog any robot who's going to come on that side of the field and try to get a cube from the portal. So that means that this little robot, Spartabots, is challenged with trying to play defense on this incredibly mobile 1323 Madtown Robotics. And what we see throughout the match is every time Madtown tries to go and gets a cube, they are dogged. They can't play the game they want to play, which takes them effectively out of the game of being able to be a comprehensive scorer. All right, so let's go ahead and also note that 254 never gets a lick of defense played on him because their supply of cubes this entire match, for the rest of this match, now that the switch cubes are gone, they come from the pyramid. They said, we don't want anything to do with these extra power-ups, like getting a force or getting a boost, because the game is about the scale, and these cubes are our cubes. No one can touch them all match long. So we're going to come back and only get our supply from this one. We're not going to send our best scale robot deep like 1323 Madtown is doing right now, who gets dogged by a defensive robot. No, we're going to come home every time. We're going to grab a cube, and nobody's going to play a lick of defense on us the entire match. That is the magic right there. This incredibly great robot, powerhouse team, one we've been fawning over all season long. Nobody even plays defense on them in an Einstein match because they always come back and get the easiest cubes available. And I think that is one of the key moments of this strategy, that while everyone else is sending their best robot to go deep and try to fight through defense to get cubes, 254 says, no way. I'm going to be the most effective scale robot if I don't have to worry about where I get my cubes from. So we're going to play through here for a couple seconds here. And I want to watch Spartabots at the home as they play great defense on Madtown Robotics. And then Madtown, under this new defense, they're going and putting cubes in the switch. They're confused because they're getting dogged. They're off their game. So at this point, let's go ahead and pause it here. We can see that this is a new act in the game. There are no longer cubes available on the switches. And at this point, 148, their goal in every single match, as soon as these cubes are gone off of the switch fence, they're going to go deep. And when they go deep, they can do that because they're the robot that's going to get beat up. And in this match, it highlights so effective why them going deep, because they can put pressure on the opponent's switch, which then draws off the other alliance being able to get their levitate cubes. It draws off their supply of cubes, which then go into their own home switch, which should be going on the scale. And then they take off their offensive power against the scale over here. So we'll play through for a couple more seconds here. We're going to stop at about at 75, Tyler. But what we can see is that the Red Alliance, despite all this, is still keeping up. They're not that many cubes behind. But right here, we're going to pause it and look at what's going on. Code Orange is playing defense on 148. That, to me, is backwards. This is supposed to be your scale robot. They're supposed to be the ones getting up there. So 148 plays D on Code. Code plays D back on 148. And then, meanwhile, 1323 over here, this great scale robot, is still being dogged by Spartabots. Spartabots is doing so effective. And when we come out of this and hit play, you can watch as 1323 navigates around this defense because they've got this incredible drivetrain and really good drivers. They do such a good job at even doing this great job. It slows them down enough that they can't be an effective scaler. So let's play
and at
through.
This point, the match has been reduced to a one-on-one matchup between 254 and 1072. That's not fair. Like, I mean, like, that's just beautiful. But the Blue Alliance has set the chess game up perfectly. But you're always trying to reduce the match. And if you're facing a team like 254, you want to try and reduce it so that 254 is out of the equation. But suddenly when you're reduced to their best robot against your third robot, like, it's in a scoring, you're done. That's
Yeah.
That's reductive strategy. 101.
And they did such a great job of absolutely guaranteeing themselves that this would happen. They left nothing to chance. It's not like this happened and suddenly the Red Alliance got confused. I mean, they did it by, like Mason said, they got the cues from the only place they knew they couldn't be defended, and they kept Madtown cooped up so that they weren't going to play defense on the poofs either. I mean, fantastic pre-thinking ahead in this match.
And this is what they play the entire round robin tournament in Einstein Files. This match is probably one of the closest. It's where some of the most mistakes happen, that it doesn't execute beautifully, because when it executes beautifully, it's actually really boring. So I wanted a match that actually kept it close. So eyes on 1323 for the next 5 seconds here as they dodge around 2976 Sparta bots on the right side of the screen here. So we'll play through for another 5 seconds or so, and we watch them navigate around. But that little defense bot that could, Sparta, is back on them, giving them a hard time, and Madtown's able to get out of it. So, Tyler, if you can, wind it back, though, to 69 seconds here, and we can watch as Code Orange is being played defense on by 148. So now 148 gets to play this very dynamic role where they're attacking the switch, being annoying, but then even hitting on the scaler. So now both scalers on the Red Alliance are getting D-played on them. So how they can catch up against the 254 robot, who, again, nobody ever played defense on the entire match, is beyond me. But as we play through the match, we will see they will catch up on the scale, which is pretty impressive here. So this 148 threat, 148 scoring on the switches, it's got 1072 now trying to play defense on them. It's got Code Orange freaking out that they're going to lose their switch. So Code Orange on the left side of the screen now is going back to their pyramid and putting them in the switch. Those pyramid cubes should go on the scale. That is the most important place. This game is about the scale, and now they've got 148's got the Red Alliance freaking out, so those cubes are getting put onto the switch here. At this point, we can pause it right here. The Red Alliance gets the scale back impressively. So despite 1323 being knocked off their game and putting a few cubes into the switch throughout the match, despite Code Orange going and playing on their own home switch, the Red Alliance still has a chance in this game. That's because they're a really good alliance and they were able to sneak in cubes where they can. And despite the defense 1323 is getting played on them, they can still get those on there. And at this point is the backup plan that the Blue Alliance had. As soon as that scale starts to swing, 148 at the top of your screen there, they're back in business and going for the scale. So most of the match, they didn't have to play the scale. They could get to go deep in most matchups they got to, but that was always on their mind. If they ever lose that scale, they're coming back and adding more firepower in and making sure this alliance gets it. And I think that's some of the beauty here is this alliance was ready for anything. Even though they win most of their matches, well, they won all their matches, and a lot of them they won handedly, and they weren't close going into the final 30 seconds. The Blue Alliance was ready to respond to anything and come swinging back over there and put those cubes up. So we're going to play through the rest of the match. It ends up being close here for a second, but the Red Alliance unfortunately knocks a few cubes off as they go to put up their final ones, and that's going to seal their fate. And then we saw it many times throughout the season, but 254, such an amazing hang to be able to come up late in the game and still easily get their hang on it. But at this point, the match is sealed, and that's their strategy right there. And if viewers at home want to go back and watch a little more, you can really see it play out so many times. And for me, watching the Detroit championship, after watching 254 and 148 clean house and look so good, I was so surprised I didn't see this strategy copied more often at the Detroit event. That's the advantage these teams have, is they all got to watch Houston, see what works in the end, and it didn't happen. I saw time after time these incredibly talented scale robots try to go deep and try to fight through defense to go to the portal to get their supply of cubes, while their third partner filled up the vault with the pyramid cubes, not leaving any pyramid cubes for the scale. And then at the end of the match, it just becomes that great scaler is just getting dogged by defense at the portals for most of the match and not able to perform. I don't know. Maybe we'll see something different at the off seasons.
That was, yeah. I mean, it's kind of nice that we're going to finish up this season analyzing a 254 match, because that's where we started when we did Game Day Live in Arizona, and it's just been a journey. A beautiful journey. Like, one of the things that you think about is, like, we always think that's like, okay, so a dominant team shows us their cards, and then everyone's thinking of what the counter strategy people are going to do to the dominant team. But like, people forget the dominant team is already thinking about what your counter strategies are, and they're coming up with their own. And 254 and 148, because they had to know that everyone was going to try and lock 254 up by the portals, because all season long 254 had been making these great portal runs. The robot was freaking seemingly designed for the portal, because they can go portal and then go over the back, or they could do a quick spin, and they were ready. They had a plan for, okay, everyone's going to try and lock us up with the portals. Let's just not even deal with the portals. And it was really well done.
Yeah, I think you started the show with that noon match, and I think there were elements of the strategy going on at the exact same time. I think some of the execution wasn't maybe quite there, but we saw a very similar from 118 and 3310's alliance with playing that defense in a very similar way to protect those fence cubes early on in the match. And then I think I saw elements of this out of the Detroit winners, 2767 Strike Force, doing that run from the pyramid back to the scale. They looked beautiful at it. They were going back for those protected cubes every time to the scale. In those final matches, they ended up not having, there was a dead robot on the other alliance, so they didn't have to work as hard there. But I saw elements of a similar strategy kind of getting exposed towards the end of Detroit.
Well, I know early on in the season, it was Eugene Fang from the Blue Alliance who kind of said on Chief, it's like, hey, the vault is a myth. The vault is a trap. And I think a lot of people just saw, like, there's 10 cubes in the pyramid. Let's put 9 of them in the vault. And that was just kind of the default sort of plan. And I think there was very few teams who realized that the vault could be your strategic depot to ensure that your scale cycles were faster. And it clearly paid off for the teams who pulled that strategy and pulled that card out.
So we got a few comments coming in from the chat. We got 3476 JTK, who says, for clarification, it may look like we, 3476 Code Orange, were playing D, but as the driver, I was just being aggressive. So that's good clarification there. We get the best view looking at it from the camera, and sometimes it looks a lot different to us, what's going on down there, than what actually maybe is going through the drivers' heads.
And I mean, what's going through the driver's head may not actually be what happened on the field. Their intent may not have been to play defense, but if you're not scoring and you're interacting with another robot that's trying to score, by default, you kind of are playing defense, whether it was the intent or not.
Right. And I think that's exactly what 148 wanted to happen, right? To cause chaos back there. And so it wasn't sure who was playing on who. Is 148 stopping Code Orange, is Code stopping 148? But the truth is that 148 was in Code's way, causing Code to get slowed down, causing Code to maybe bump and run into them. I mean, that's the power of what that strategy really was. So our next question here is about the Turing division. So this comes from Dare Bonfire, and it was, what did you think about the upsets of the powerhouse teams of the Turing division? Bringing up my Turing field here.
I think the reason there were first of all, like the 1533, 1296, 2655 alliance was just fabulous from the 8th spot. But I think part of the reason there were so many upsets is that I think that a lot of the top teams got split up just based on how the seedings went, because I think things might play differently if 2471 and 842 are on the same alliance. I think things might play differently if 2122 and 1538 are on the same alliance. I don't know. I think it was a combination of some really good teams getting split and then just solid execution from 1533 and 1296. They just played so smart every round.
Yeah, and this one was surprising to me, but because there were two teams with 4-cube autos in this division with 842 and Mean Machine. So I thought I would have definitely, I mean, if you would have told me a 4-cube auto isn't going to win your division, I don't know. I'm not sure I would have believed it, but I think in reality, those autonomous modes didn't work as often as they needed to be as successful. And then you talk about 987 and 1538 getting split up and ending up on different alliances. I thought the two of them would have played together really, really well. That division was such a knockout, drag out to get to the top, and then P&W teams at the top end up picking each other, which I don't think was actually the most powerful alliance that could have possibly happened there.
Yeah, I agree. And then I also want to point out where 7179 ended up. Crossfire fell all the way to the 23rd pick, which I mean is hyped up as maybe overhyped as they have been this year, through JVN's blog and us talking about them a whole bunch. I was surprised. I did not think they were going to last that long in Alliance selection. They ended up on the number 2 Alliance. I originally thought, oh, well, they're going to win. Seeing the Alliance selection, I thought the number 2 Alliance actually had a really strong shot at getting out of this.
Yeah, I think the championship in general was not kind to Switch bots. I think Switch bots.
I think the whole season ended up being a lot less kind.
I could do a whole candidly speaking on on how. Yeah, maybe it can be a topic on how much it kind of sucked to, because I was, I did some part-time mentoring of another team this year, and they were a Switch bot team, Team 4525, and just like how screwed you are when you realize, oh wait, I'm going to be the number 8 Alliance captain, and like just being stuck in the middle of the Serpentine, and like maybe I need to start going back on my rants from 2006 about the Serpentine, but like it is absolutely depressing when you know that the best thing your team can do on Saturday morning is lose matches. That actually the best thing for your team would be to lose matches, and like that's just, how do you explain that to your team? Well, you're not actually going to intentionally lose matches unless you're a douchebag. And so, because you're not a douchebag, you're going to play hard, and then you're going to get knocked out. Like totally another story. Candidly speaking, we'll do it another time.
Yeah.
So, another question
we've got.
What I can't understand is why this is from Tom Bushler. What I can't understand is why anyone didn't play aggressive but legal defense against the Poops to stop them from loading up the scale. Then while the Poops were being slowed down, have the other 2 robots load the scale and get control of it. And, I mean, Tom, it's not exactly that simple.
I think first you would have to look at where, if you're going to play legal defense on the Poops, where do you play it? In this match, so where they're running cycles between their scale and their pyramid, the only place you can even sort of play defense on them is that pinch point between the switch and the wall. And first of all, it's a very inadvantageous place for you to be as a red robot, because you can't get anything done there. And the Poofs are the best drivers there are. I mean, playing somebody just go hit and play defense on the Poofs is way easier than it sounds. But I think they made such a good job of, if you did play defense on them in that match, being in that position was a really bad defensive position for you.
Well,
and also, I think Karthik already said it. Like, everyone expected the Poofs to go deep. They've been doing it all season long, and in the action of the event, people weren't keying into their strategy, which was to stay home. So they were probably ready and prepared and talked about playing defense on the Poofs. When those Poofs come across the halfway point, we're going to hit them so hard, and they never came across the halfway point.
And I think the other thing is, it's like, if and that's such a huge if, you were able to slow down the Poofs a little bit, well, then 148, the second best robot in the world, is roaming free. Yeah. Like, it's...
And to be fair, 148 got the shit knocked out of them. I mean, they were beat up all match long.
Yeah. And people were in a lot of matches trying to play defense against the Poofs, except the Poofs just made them look so silly that you didn't even notice the defense. It's just because, it's like tap, tap, nudge, nudge, spin, and we're back in the protected zone. So, unless you're going to try and pull a Turkish delight on them, like what happened in that last qualifying match they had, there's just nothing's going on.
Yeah. So I actually have a question, I guess, for the two of you, because you would definitely know way better than I would. Being on the other side of the glass as the Poofs, or a team like the Poofs, one of these great, great teams, does it change your mindset at all? I mean, you saw halfway through this match, as soon as Code Orange and Madtown get down, they sort of, it almost seems like, change up their strategy, start going for the switch, start kind of freaking out, playing weird things. Is that in your head as a coach or as a driver behind the glass, just because it is the Poofs, because they haven't lost a match yet this season?
I'll speak from the perspective of the Poofs, and just thinking back to some years when 11-14 had very, very dominant robots. Teams would do some really dumbass things against us, because it's like they would just lose their minds, because it's like in 2008, they just kind of felt like they couldn't beat us conventionally, so they would try some really weird things, like, let's just try and pin their balls and whatever. And it was just like, what are you doing? So teams do panic. Teams absolutely panic. And I think this year's Poof robot may have been the most panic-inducing robot in maybe since 469 in 2010. I don't know. And maybe since the Poofs in 2014. And it does affect how other people play, and sometimes to the detriment of those teams.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely saw some crazy strategies come out. We even saw some aggressive illegal play happening in the last qualification match of Hopper. 254 and 148 were actually paired up, and a Turkish team came out and really pounded them. But to me, the really competitive alliances, they should just treat it like anyone else and go in there. And I think that, especially the match I just covered with 1323, Code Orange, and Madtown, they had a really good shot to win that match. I think if they didn't, I mean, both of those great robots were putting cubes in the switch. If they weren't doing that and just focusing on the scale, it may have, I can't say it would have won it for them, but it would have been very, very close otherwise. So I think they were totally beatable, but man, they played really freaking good all the time.
Yeah, so we have a comment here from Caleb 7 Hayes saying, yeah, as a driver of 2910, that thing was terrifying.
Well, I have to say 2910 didn't look terrified out there. They looked amazing.
Yeah, 2910 was definitely one of my favorite robots to watch, Jack in the Bot. I got to be honest, I didn't follow the PNW too close. I live in the PNW. I didn't even follow it too close this year, which is my own problem. But I was just blown away by how well they played the field. We covered a couple of their matches live at the venue, highlighting their performance all across the field. So I was not surprised when I saw them playing in Minute Maid Park, because they were just incredibly dominant. Unfortunately, their matches against the Cheesy Poofs, they probably played their worst game of all the Einstein matches, which they had to play them 3 times. But it's unfortunate because, I've talked so much today about how Madtown's got this great mobility system. Well, 2910 went out there and played 1323 and smoked them. They had a way better crab drive, control of their crab drive. So, yeah, I mean, it gets in people's heads, I guess, whenever you have to go up against the Cheesy Poofs.
Back on 2910, I literally had not heard of them before the championship. And then I was like, whoa, maybe I should be paying more attention.
Yeah, a lot of these PNW teams, I feel that way. I was lucky enough to, in 2015, I got a chance to go up there for a district event when I was mentoring a team. And yeah, it's incredible. I mean, they have some really good stuff going on up there. And it's an area that we don't talk about a whole lot.
Yeah, it's crazy because I'd seen the stats all year long, the last couple of years actually, and these district events that they have up there, the numbers are off the charts. They're some of the top events in the world. They just don't get talked about very much, and I think people will be paying attention next year.
Oh yes. Yeah,
I mean, especially with Mean Machine coming out and putting all those videos on Chief of their awesome autonomous modes, and then 2976 winning a world championships from Sammamish last year. The team from Ballard ended up winning, or they won the Houston championship event. So Ballard, Seattle, Washington. So all these great teams are coming out from the Seattle and Pacific Northwest areas, and it's unreal. Next Michigan, maybe. We got a question here coming from P-Rate. He's asking, any quick thoughts on the Tesla eliminations? I thought it was one of the more interesting playoffs of the year with so many incredible teams. The winners of that division was 2056 and 1241, but some really tight matchups there as well. You guys remember any of those?
I cannot say much since I missed Detroit Champs completely.
Yeah, I was also in Louisville at the time. I have it up on Blue Alliance right now, and I'm looking at it because I did try and catch up with some of this. But
yeah, I can see what one of my favorite things about this matchup was. I think it was the first finals match. We actually saw an upset by the Blue Alliance coming out. And what made that so interesting to me was that the Blue Alliance had a double lifter on their alliance. So they actually didn't need the extra cubes in the vault to get the full 90 points on there. So what that ended up being was they got to use those cubes to play elsewhere and to play defense late into the game. So that was the alliance of 2590, 2614, and 708. So I think they did a great job shutting down 2056, playing a lot of defense on them. But then at the end of the match, whenever you see them line up for their end game, you think, oh my gosh, they haven't gotten their levitate back. But really they can get all three robots hanging in the air very quickly at the end of the match. I thought that was an excellent use of an unconventional strategy there, which was impressive, which allowed them to use those cubes elsewhere throughout the field.
And can we talk about the horrifying luck of Team 2056? This is now 3 years in a row that they've been eliminated from the championship on tiebreakers. The tiebreakers in the finals in 2016 in the final match, and now 2 years in a row in round robin tiebreakers, they've been knocked out. It's just like, man.
Yeah, that one was really, really hard to watch, especially whenever it was 2056. I don't know what their percentage of times they've lifted a partner, but it's got to be close to 100% of the time. I mean, I know I've seen at least one GIF of them getting a robot knocked off. But at the end of that match, in their final round robin match where they went up against 195's Alliance, they just had to get that partner up in the air, and it falls just short. Like, it is so freaking close. And in that match, they played such an interesting strategy to play double defense and basically convert the entire match into a 1 versus 1 of 2056 versus 195 for the extent of that match, which to me was a very risky move. But whenever you watch it and you watch 1241 play defense and shut this game down, and you watch 2056 maintain the lead against 195 all match long, you're like, all right, maybe there's some genius here.
All right. And we say, I know the stream, this is from SED1458. I know the stream is more about game analyzation, but maybe you could ask what their thoughts are on next year's theme.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll start with that. We were talking before the show about, I guess Karthik and I both kind of come from the world of Vex. I did FRC, but we were both in Louisville, and where Vex does the game unveil immediately following the finals of their season, basically.
Yeah, championship and kickoff are the same thing.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible. It's an electrifying atmosphere. If y'all haven't seen it, there's VODs on YouTube and that sort of thing, and you really should. But I love what First did with this, that they got people excited about it with this theme. I like the theme overall. I love that it's a space thing. The history is fantastic. I like that they connected the theme through Junior FLL, through FRC. I like that they've been doing that the last couple of years, where all of the themes are related. But I thought it was really cool that they announced it at Houston. I thought the video was great. And then obviously they still haven't figured 2 champs out, where they did the same thing at Detroit and tried to act like they never announced it at Houston. Which obviously I thought was pretty stupid. But overall, as far as the theme goes, I think they are getting better.
Garrison, I just want to say I'd like to thank First for not posting about it, because then we posted about it and got tons of likes and follows. So thank you, First. I appreciate it. So
I have to agree with Garrison's last point that the themes have gotten better, because the themes started off terribly. Like when they did
my God.
The stupid Renaissance Fair, the theme was intrusive. You looked at the field and it was that was the year where I was too embarrassed to tell any of my friends what I was doing. I didn't invite them to events. It was that ridiculous. And then Steampunk was bad, but this year, with the video game one, it wasn't. What I thought of the theme was irrelevant. The theme was not intrusive, and I think with space, I think it's probably going to be something along the same way. And I just think that they've gotten better at this and integrating it in a way where the theme doesn't overshadow the robots, which is the thing you want to avoid the most, because the robots are the real show.
Yeah. If we look back in the history books, 2009 was the original theme game. That was Lunacy, which was a space theme, and they called the ground regolith and orbit balls, and I think the drivers were called commanders or something silly like that. And it was real gimmicky, and it didn't get a lot of traction, so it kind of went away.
A lot of traction.
And then now we get this chance to redo it, to have a really good space game, so that space games aren't associated with lunacy anymore. So I'm really excited about that. I grew up in Space City, USA, in Houston, Texas, so I'm excited to see that. I think it's a theme that celebrates science and technology and engineering and math, which is what so much of what this program is about, and it's so easy to draw those parallels between the two. So I'm expecting good things, but ultimately it can be the coolest theme ever. If the game sucks, and it's a bad year. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that the game don't suck.
Yeah, I like the thing Karthik said, make the robots the focus, not the field. I think that was the single biggest problem with Steamworks, was that the field was, for some reason, the focus of that game, with the airships and not being able to see anything and the scoring being 6 inches off the ground. And I thought 2016 was much the same way, where with the defenses being moved, everything. The robot, and this year was much better. But yeah, the robots need to be the focus of every single match, not whatever shenanigans are happening with the field setup or the rotors or motorizing some part of the field.
I just keep thinking back to aerial assist, which, like, other than the penalty situation, that was a great game, and the field was nothing. The field was absolutely nothing, and it was fun. It was a good time.
All right. Well, I think with that, we're going to wrap up our episode of FUNalysis. So let's bring on Tyler one more time. He's going to thank all those who've donated and subscribed to and keeps our shows like FUNalysis going.
Thanks, Mason. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to people who have subscribed and donated at least 100 bits or more. So thank you to the Brownie for your subscription, Garrett Sky for your subscription, Backup Boy for your subscription. Hey, not my screen name. CDF Man for 2 months of your support. Thank you very much. RT Strangle for your Tier 1 subscription. Clint Ott for 6 months of your support. Thank you, buddy. Meredith for your subscription. Tier 1, thank you very much. Garrison, he's pulling double duty right there. 3 months of support. Thank you, Garrison. Lino, 5 months of your support. Thank you. Pyreeds, 3 months of support. Mick Last, 3 months of support. Said 1458, 15 months of support. Thank you very much, Said. And Beast Mo Games, 13 with your Prime subscription. Thank you, guys. And don't forget, you can subscribe for free if you have Amazon Prime, or for you or your parents do. You can link it and get a free subscription, or it's just a few bucks a month. And these people are making us continue to make more shows. Because of you guys that we're making shows weekly for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, Garrison Hefner, it was my first time working with you tonight. Great job. What do you got going on this off season?
Thank you. Well, I move out tomorrow. I'm driving up here. I just finished school up here at WPI, and I'm going down back to my home state of Texas, where I will be working for Vex for the foreseeable future.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Karthik, it's always amazing to work with you. What do you got going on this summer?
Just kind of do the robot recoil. After doing I think it was 7 or 8 straight weeks of events, I'm very glad to have my weekends to myself and not be in front of a crowd, and just gonna chill out, and looking forward to some good shows of FUNalysis and Candidly Speaking, and maybe I'll make an appearance at IRI. But Mason, let's talk about the important things here. We have to say congratulations to our buddy Mason and his lovely girlfriend, now fiance Alyssa, on their engagement. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's been about 3 days now since Saturday, and since I powered up my relationship, we had a really serious DTR, define the relationship talk, and upgraded from a girlfriend to a fiance, and very excited about the future to come between me and Alyssa.
That's super exciting. And what else do you got going on this summer, man?
Stuff, man. I think I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be moving down to the San Francisco Bay Area this summer. So I'm leaving the beautiful Pacific Northwest and coming down to go work for a medical robotics company. So for me, that's going to be super exciting, and it's going to keep me involved with a lot of the California robotic events. So I'll be making appearances at Chesney Champs and hopefully a few others. And, I think I'm going to have to try to make it out to IRI this year too.
Hey, let me see if I can break a big story here, Mason. So you're moving to the NorCal area. Is there some blue in your future, buddy?
Nope, there's nothing available there. I'm working for an amazing company that sponsors both 971 Spartan Robotics and Team 254, the Cheesy Poofs. So within just a stone's throw, I could be a part of any amazing team. But for now, sticking to the analysis side.
Awesome.
Yeah, good try though.
Yeah, I want like breaking news, like the Woj bomb in the NBA, like maybe like the car bomb. Oh, that sounds bad, actually.
All right, so with that, we're going to close and wrap up this show. So let us know what you thought of our show on Discord or Facebook or Chief Delphi, so we can continue to make this content that you really want. This is about the audience. This is for you guys. We can talk to each other anytime, but we really want to FUNalysis to be a critical part of the FIRST Robotics community. So please give us some feedback. Let us know what you want to hear, our opinions on, what you want us to talk about, what matches you want us to break down. We're going to be back next month during the off season. We're going to be here Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 Pacific. So on behalf of myself, Garrison, and Karthik, and Tyler, I would like to thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you all of our moderators in the chat. We'll see you next time on Fun, and we'll talk to you then.